A very common thing that I hear is we know we need to get better on safety, but we just don't know where to start. If that's the boat that you're in, then you're amongst the majority. And what better time than now at the start of the new year to make that start? But not just start, let's nail it. I know it feels overwhelming and complicated, but it really isn't. I've broken getting started down into 8 manageable sections to give you a very good starting point. So let's jump in. Step 1, business basics and direction. Most farms are operating flat out with no clear view of what is coming next. Work, people, compliance, and life are all competing for attention at the same time. When everything feels urgent, decisions, I can't say that word today, get rushed. Planning drops away, compliance becomes reactive, stress increases, and safety and people issues follow. This step is not about rules, paperwork, or fixing problems necessarily. It's about creating visibility. Until you can see what is coming, everything else just feels harder than it needs to be. So, next steps. Number 1, let's put a calendar on the wall. If you don't already have one, start with a big wall calendar in the office or kitchen. This is your anchor. Most farms I work with use this alongside a shared digital calendar, but the wall calendar is where clarity starts. And secondly, block in the big work first. Write in major operational activities for the year: carting, spreading, shearing, lambing, harvest, any known busy periods. Don't overthink the dates, just roughly block them in. Number 3, block in life, not just work. Add birthdays, anniversaries, school events, planned time off. These really do matter. Ignoring them is one of the fastest ways to ensure that pressure will start building. Number 4, mark 2 review windows. Choose 2 quieter periods in the year and mark them as review weeks. These are not audits yet. They are simply protecting time to step back, review how things are tracking, and deal with issues before pressure hits again. Number 5, make it visible to others. If you have staff or family involved, make sure the calendar is visible for them too. Pressure drops when everyone else can see what is coming. When work and life are visible, urgency reduces. Conversations improve, decisions become clearer, compliance stops feeling like a constant catch-up. And this is how you create the space to deal with safety, people, and paperwork. And let's go into the next steps: people and employment. Step 2, people and employment. Farms are generally built around really good people, but these people are often working without clear boundaries or written expectations. Roles evolve over time, conversations happen on the run, and what started as informal arrangements quickly become the norm. No one sets out to create confusion. It just happens because the work keeps moving and people step up to help. Over time, clarity gets lost. Does that sound familiar? When expectations are not clear, people start guessing, and guessing leads to mistakes, inconsistent behavior, tension between people, and exposure when something goes wrong. In serious situations, the business is left vulnerable because there is nothing clear to point back to. People are one of your most valuable resources on your farm. They are also one of the biggest areas of risk when systems are unclear. So this step is about putting respectful structure around people, not to control them, but to protect them and the business. Clear foundations make everything else easier. So step 1, list everyone involved in the business. Write down everyone who works on or influences the farm: employees, contractors, family members who help out regularly. If they affect safety, productivity, or decisions on your farm, then they belong on the list. Now, number 2, be clear on who is an employee and who is a contractor. Employees and contractors are treated differently under the law and need different agreements. If that line feels blurred, this is where to slow down and make sure that you clarify. Number 3, for employees, let's get 3 things right from the start. Reference checks. Before even hiring, complete your reference checks and look beyond the skills. Ask about how they work under pressure, how they take direction, whether they will fit with your culture. A person who fits the culture will always outperform someone who does not, even if that person's skills are stronger. Employment contracts should be written and comply with Fair Work Australia. At a minimum, these should clearly outline the role and the main responsibilities, the hours of work and the pay arrangements, the relevant modern award that they come unto and the levels that you believe that they're associated with, overtime and allowances where applicable, leave entitlements, a realistic probationary period, 6 months is what I always go with, and training expectations and any agreed training repayment arrangements. You also need to add your Fair Work statements. So employees also must be provided with the required Fair Work Information Statement and, where applicable, the Casual Employment Information Statement. These documents explain to employees their rights and set out clear expectations from the start for both parties. Number 4, for contractors, you need to set clear boundaries. Contractors need written agreements too. Before work starts, ensure there is a contractor agreement outlining the scope of work and the responsibilities. They provide evidence of insurance and, at a minimum, public liability and workers' compensation where required. It is clear who is responsible for safety, supervision, and reporting, because when contractors are not clearly set up, the risk does not disappear. It now sits with the farm. And number 5, write expectations down. Do not rely on verbal agreements or assumptions. Written expectations protect relationships and make future conversations fair and straightforward. When people know their role, their boundaries, and their rights, work flows better. Issues are addressed earlier. Compliance becomes something you manage, not something that you fear. We're now going to go on to step 3, which is work plan and machinery. But that list of people that you wrote down is really important, and we're going to come back to that and add more to it. Step 3, work plan and machinery. Machinery and equipment are relied on heavily, but oversight relies on memory and habit rather than structured systems. Machines are familiar, so risks become invisible. People assume equipment is safe because it worked yesterday. When machinery issues are missed, the consequences are serious. Faults get worked around, pre-start checks are skipped or rushed, and small mechanical issues turn into major incidents. I recently worked with a farm where a faulty sensor in the hydraulic arm of a tractor was missed. During the operation, the hydraulic arm jumped unexpectedly and a worker was pinned between the tractor and the attachment. This step is about creating visibility and consistency around machinery and equipment so problems are found early and not after someone is hurt. Most machinery incidents are preventable. Pre-start checks are where accidents are stopped before they even happen. So let's go through the steps. Step 1, list all the machinery and equipment on your farm. So start by writing down every piece: tractors, loaders, telehandlers, attachments, augers, forklifts, side-by-sides. A simple spreadsheet is enough. If it moves, lifts, spins, or carries a load, it belongs on the list. Number 2, create a maintenance schedule. For each item, note basic maintenance requirements and inspection intervals. This does not need to be complex. What matters is that it's recorded and reviewed. I use a machinery schedule and maintenance template for this because it removes all of the guesswork. Number 3, set up tag out controls. Have tag out tags available and make sure people know how and when to use them. Have you seen them before? You can get them from most of your local hardware stores, safety supplies, probably even Bunnings. If machinery is unsafe, it must be clearly tagged out and not used until fixed. Informal verbal warnings are not enough. And number 4, record pre-start checks. There must be a consistent way to record these pre-start checks. I can't understate how important these are if you get audited after a WorkSafe incident. And these can be paper-based or digital. They just have to be completed. There are apps out there, including ours, that make it really easy to record pre-start checks. What matters is that checks are done and recorded. Pre-start checks are where faults like hydraulic issues, sensor failures, and unsafe attachments are identified early. Number 5, train people in safe operation. People must be trained in safe work operating procedures for the machinery they use. Verbal instruction alone is not enough. We have free safe work operating procedure videos available on our website, and these should be part of normal operations. Training is covered in more detail in the training and induction segment later in this series. And number 6, confirm licenses and competencies. Check that required licenses are in place. For example, in Victoria, agricultural telehandlers rated to carry 3 tonne and over now require a specific agricultural telehandler license. If somebody is operating high-risk machinery without the correct license or competency, the exposure sits with the business. When machinery is listed, maintained, checked, and operated consistently, faults are identified early. This reduces breakdowns, injuries, and serious incidents. It also protects the business if something goes wrong. You don't need complicated systems. You need simple, consistent checks that catch problems before people get hurt. Good machinery systems support productivity and safety at the same time. Step 4 is hazard and risk management. Too many serious injuries and fatalities on farms happen because a risk was there, but it was never properly identified or managed. Hazards become part of the landscape. People get used to them. They fade into the background until one day they do real harm. I have seen this far too many times. A flapping piece of roof tin that had been loose for months finally lifted in the wind and killed a farmer. The hazard was visible, it just was not dealt with. When hazards are not identified and managed, the consequences are devastating. Injuries, fatalities, investigations, and families left asking how something so obvious was missed. In many cases, these incidents could have been prevented if the risk had been identified and acted on early. This step is about building the habit of seeing risk early and doing something about it. Hazard identification is not a one-off task. On a farm, new hazards appear constantly. Fallen trees, low-lying power lines, deep wheel ruts, damaged infrastructure. Changing conditions are part of farming. The goal is not to remove every hazard. The goal is to notice them and manage them before they hurt someone. So let's go through the steps. Firstly, take a walk through the farm, through the yards, machinery areas, workshops, sheds, paddocks, and access roads. As you walk, jot down hazards as you see them. Loose tin, missing guards, slippery surfaces, poor lighting, unstable ground. Do not filter or judge. If it catches your eye, then just write it down. Secondly, ask the people doing the work. Sit down with the family at Smoko or with the team and ask one simple question. What is one hazard you've noticed or one job you do that feels risky? Everyone gives at least one example. This brings up risks you may not see and starts shared ownership of safety. Thirdly, make it a regular conversation. This should not be a once-a-year exercise. Make hazard identification a regular habit. Ideally, it becomes part of a weekly toolbox meeting. If that feels too formal, do it once a week at Smoko. At the corporate farm I worked at, every team member was asked to bring one hazard to the weekly toolbox meeting. Some weeks it was really hard, and somebody before you would say the one that you were thinking of. Someone might joke that another person's shoelaces were undone, but the habit mattered. People started looking for hazards because they knew they were going to be asked, and this is how culture shifts. Fourthly, decide how to manage each hazard. For each of your hazards you've written down, work out how they're going to be managed. The best option is always to eliminate the hazard completely. But if that's not possible, look at ways to reduce the risk. Fix it, isolate it, change how the job is done, use guards, barriers, or clear instructions. You don't have to aim for perfection, you have to aim for progress. And number 5, turn hazard management into jobs. Because hazards that are written down and not acted on still create risk. Turn them into jobs to be done. Allocate responsibility, set a time frame, follow up. This is how hazard management moves from good intentions to real change. When hazard identification becomes routine, risks are found earlier and managed before someone is hurt. Involving the whole team builds awareness and shared responsibility. Small actions taken early prevent serious outcomes later. Hazards are everywhere on a farm. This is the nature of our work. Safety does not come from pretending they are not there. It comes from noticing them early and doing something about them together. Make hazard identification a habit, not a reaction. Step 5, systems, records, and administration. How many farmers' heads are filled with IP and records, like a filing cabinet chockers with critical information about the farm and how things are done? That's understandable, but we do need to extract it and put it into systems for everybody's sake, most importantly for compliance purposes. When something goes wrong, stress skyrockets. Time is lost searching for documents, responsibility sits with one person, audits feel overwhelming, safety and compliance become reactive instead of routine. This step is about making compliance easy to follow and easy to share. Systems should support people to do the right thing without nagging reminders or constant follow-up. So firstly, ask the hard questions about your current systems. Write down the systems, digital, paper, or even verbal, that you currently use for farm compliance and ask yourself a couple of questions. Are they actually being used? Do they serve a clear purpose? What problem were they meant to solve? Do they still solve that problem? And what problems are still not solved? Be honest. If a system is not working, it's not a failure to change it. Secondly, choose systems people will actually use. A system only works if people engage with it daily. I have tried to force systems on teams that were not built with workers in mind. It is exhausting and it does not sit. When you find a system people use without being chased, that is when the magic happens. That is when responsibility for safety and compliance starts to be shared. That is when you start to sleep better. Systems should be simple, dyslexic friendly, and multilingual if you employ overseas workers. Number 3, decide what needs to be digital and what does not. Not everything needs software. Sometimes Excel is the most reliable option, or so is a notepad or a diary. At a corporate firm I worked with, we replaced multiple complicated systems with simple spreadsheets because they worked better. Today, there are far more reliable digital tools available, but Excel still has a place, and so does the handwritten diary. The right system is the one that solves the problem you actually have. And number 4, build daily habits, not just storage. Systems should support daily habits. Clocking on, reporting hazards, recording checks, completing training. This is exactly why Pippa was created, to make safety and compliance part of everyday work, not something remembered once a month. With a 98% adoption rate, it proved something important. When systems are built for real people, they actually get used. Systems are a way of doing things. When you make it easy for people to comply, you protect your business and you share the responsibility for safety and compliance across the team. Step 6, health, fatigue, and well-being. Long days, early starts, late finishes, travel between jobs, and precious season are common in agriculture. And I'm not about to attempt to solve the reasons why they're common. My focus is on compliance and finding the balance between the law and the reality of farming. When fatigue builds, making drops. Reaction times slow. Small mistakes turn into injuries. Over time, burnout sets in. Fatigue is a factor in many serious incidents on farm, and it also plays a big role in mental health decline. Ignoring fatigue does not make it go away, it actually makes it dangerous. This step is about acknowledging reality and designing work that recognizes people as human beings and not machines. Managing fatigue is leadership. So step number 1, look honestly at how work is structured. Review the following: shift length during busy periods, travel time between jobs for certain people, breaks that are regularly skipped, and who is most at risk of exhaustion. If everyone is tired, something in the system needs to change. Secondly, set clear fatigue management rules. Be clear on your expectations. How long is too long? When does someone stop? And what happens if a person is not fit for work that day? New fatigue codes of practice were released at the end of 2025. Are you familiar with what applies to your operation? For example, horticulture requires a minimum 10-hour break between shift. These rules protect people and the business. Number 3, normalize the rest and also normalize speaking up. At the corporate farm, our CEO openly told the team that she would rather someone safely park a machine and have a nap in the paddock than push through exhausted. They just had to let the team know. She was leading by example, and that changed behavior. When leaders normalize rest, people make safer decisions. Number 4, plan connection into the calendar. Fatigue is not just physical, it's mental and emotional. Block in simple team moments on your calendar: a barbecue breakfast, an Are You OK day morning tea, a golf day. These events build connections and give people space to talk openly. Number 5, have real conversations about well-being. Ask how people are going and mean it. Be open, be curious, be human. New requirements now expect businesses to assess psychological risks in the workplace. So conduct a risk assessment on your business for where there might be some potential pressure points. And number 6, build capability to respond. Consider completing a mental health first aid course. I did one, and the very next day, I was doing a routine performance review that quickly turned into a mental health first aid situation. The worker disclosed suicidal thoughts. I followed the training step by step and safely had her at a GP that afternoon. That was 2 years ago, and she's now a manager and thriving in her role. When fatigue and well-being are openly discussed, people speak up early, risks are managed before they escalate, trust builds, and safety improves. Healthy teams make better decisions. Caring about fatigue and well-being is not softness, it's actually strong leadership. Be human, be open, be curious, and be caring. When people feel supported, they show up safer, more engaged, and more capable every day. Step 7, training, induction, and capability. I have so many favorite parts of my job, but inductions and training are right up there. It's just a perfect mechanism for molding the behavior and skill set your business needs. So it absolutely baffles me how so many farms miss these steps completely. You guys spend a fortune on machinery and then willingly throw in inexperienced operators, sometimes on their first day. So often people are shown a job once, expected to remember it, and trusted to work it out as they go. Remember at school how some people were quick to learn and others just struggled to even concentrate? Well, that's no different in the workplace. This step is about making sure people are welcomed and inducted properly, trained for the work they do, and supported to grow in their role. So let's go through the steps. Firstly, go back to your people list and their roles. Use the list that you created for employees, contractors, and family members, and next to each person, write the jobs they actually do. Not what is written in a position description, what they actually do each day. This is going to become your training map. So number 2, identify their required licenses and certificates for each role. This may include forklift, telehandler, confined spaces, working at heights, chemical handling, first aid. Check that licenses are current and appropriate for the work being done. If someone does not hold the right license, that task should not be part of their role. I have a spreadsheet for this that I use for all of my clients, and I would open it most days. It's that valuable. Number 3, confirm competency. Once you've trained the person how to operate the machine or vaccinate the livestock, you need to observe and confirm that they understood their training and can perform the task safely and efficiently. Compliance inspectors expect to see these. This proof has saved my clients so many times because you can't avoid a human being doing the opposite of what you told them to do. But a competency check will prove to the authorities that you did indeed instruct them. We just had a perfect example where a young worker got pinned between a reversing tractor and the attachment being loaded up onto a trailer. What the hell was he doing up there? That's not what we taught him. He's lucky to be alive, and my client had 2 inspectors out on site, which is pretty scary, but we had no follow-up actions because they had everything in place. So number 4, strengthen your induction process. Every new person should complete an induction before starting work. This applies to employees, contractors, and seasonal workers. An induction sets out your rules, your expectations, and shows people where everything is located on your property and what hazards to be aware of. An induction checklist keeps this consistent and ensures nothing is missed. It sets expectations early and creates a clear record. Number 5, include safe work and emergency training. People need to know how work is done safely and what to do when something goes wrong. This includes safe work operating procedures, emergency procedures, and how to report hazards and incidents. We have a free safe work and emergency training videos available on our website that can be used as part of everyday operations. Number 6, check your emergency readiness. Ask yourself, do you have a fire plan? Are emergency procedures written down? Are roles clearly allocated? Designate roles such as fire captain, assistant captains, and first aiders so people know what to do under pressure. Templates make this far easier to set up. And number 7, plan future training for growth. Training is not just about compliance. Ask people what training they would like to do to grow in their role. This builds capability and is one of the strongest retention strategies available. When people can see a future, they stay. Clear induction, targeted training, and ongoing competency checks reduce incidents, improve confidence, and make audits far less stressful. People feel supported rather than set up to fail. Training is not about ticking boxes. It's about giving people the tools to succeed and the opportunity to grow. When training starts well and continues over time, safety improves, confidence grows, and good people stay. Step 8, communication, reporting, and culture. Issues stay quiet until they are serious. People notice things that they do not feel right, but they do not always speak up. Sometimes they are not sure how, but sometimes they do not think anything will change, and sometimes they just don't want to be seen as difficult. When issues stay quiet, small problems grow. Near misses turn into incidents, frustrations turn into resentment, and risks sit unnoticed until they are much harder to deal with. Culture is not what you say, it is what happens next. Culture starts from the top. I know it sounds cliched, but it's true. You set the tone for how safe it feels to speak up, to ask questions, and to admit something is not working. This step is about creating regular, simple ways for people to communicate and to be heard. So step 1, ask how issues are raised and followed up on your farm. Be honest and ask, how do people actually raise issues here? What happens after something is reported? And do people actually see follow-up? If people do not see action, they'll stop speaking. Number 2, build communication into routine. One of the biggest culture shifts I've seen came from introducing a simple weekly Monday toolbox meeting. I am not kidding. Nothing fancy, just a regular time to talk. Suddenly workers felt heard. They had a safe space to speak up. They were included in planning instead of being told after decisions were made. Consistency matters more than length. Number 3, debrief after big events. After major periods like harvest, sit down as a team and debrief. Use a whiteboard and draw 3 columns. I attribute these to our CEO from the corporate farm, and they work every time. Write down these 3 simple columns: what worked, what didn't, and what needs improving. The reason it's important to write it up is that people sometimes forget what somebody else has said, so they might not actually speak up. So it's really important to do this as a team and up on a whiteboard. Number 4, include culture and well-being in performance conversations. In my performance reviews, I always include culture and well-being. I ask 3 simple questions. What words would you use to describe the culture here? What do you enjoy about your job? And what causes you stress in life or work? These questions surface issues early and show that people matter beyond our output. Number 5, communicate in ways people can actually absorb. Dyslexia is far more common than people realise. Around 1 in 5 Australians are dyslexic, and in my experience on farms, it is closer to 1 in 3. Most of the dyslexic workers I've supported have never told their bosses or colleagues because they were worried about how it would be received. Dyslexic people bring enormous strengths: problem solving, spatial awareness, big picture thinking. Many of our major inventions in the world came from dyslexic minds. But reading, writing, and remembering long lists can be challenging. So use face-to-face conversations. Use the UHF. Avoid long text messages and written instructions where possible. This is why systems like Pippa are designed to be dyslexic friendly. And number 6, share the plan regularly. Talk through what is coming up, what the priorities are, what has changed. Share the calendar and keep it up to date. When people understand the plan, they feel included and confident to speak up. When communication is regular and inclusive, people speak early, risks are identified sooner, and culture becomes something you actively shape, not something you hope for. Good culture is not about saying the right things. It is about creating spaces where people feel safe to speak and knowing that what they say will be taken seriously. When people feel heard, problems stay small and teams become stronger. Okay, so if you've made it this far into the video, one thing should be clear. Compliance is not one big thing you fix all at once. It's a series of small, practical steps. You start by creating visibility so pressure does not drive decisions. You put respectful structure around people. You make machinery and equipment safe to use every day, You build the habit of identifying and managing hazards. I'm fine. You put systems in place that people will actually use. You design work for humans, not machines. You train people properly and give them room to grow. And you create a culture where people speak up early. None of this requires perfection. None of it requires doing everything today. What it does require is intention. Most farms that end up in trouble were busy. They were stretched. They were relying on memory and goodwill instead of systems. This framework is about changing that. It's about moving risk out of your head and into clear, shared ways of working. It's about protecting your people, your family, and your business. Compliance done this way is not paperwork, it is leadership in action. And when you take it step by step, it becomes manageable. Calm replaces overwhelm, and safety really is served sweet. If you're wondering now where to find all of these templates and maybe have some questions you'd love to ask me, I've just created a community group for exactly that purpose. It's called People in Paddocks. Visit our website for more information. I hope you have a fabulous and safe 2026, and I truly hope that I get to meet you in person someday.